I want to encourage your advocacy in public settings, advocacy that is directed toward authority figures, legal systems, and institutions. But I also want to encourage your advocacy in less visible ways. This is a picture of my two older sisters, Marilyn and Denise, yes, the ones that would later set the kitchen timer, and me. If you look closely at the picture, you will notice that my collar is pulled up a little bit. This is because I was still a little wobbly when it came to sitting up by myself. So my sisters were holding on to the back of my dress to keep me from falling. I have been the beneficiary of behind-the-scenes advocacy my entire life, and it has been provided by family, friends, and professional associates in ways too numerous to mention. Today it is evidenced by the fact that my husband, my 81-year-old mother, 5 of my 6 siblings, the missing sibling is with the U.S. State Department in Egypt and wishes he could be here, brothers and sisters-in-law, children, and nieces and nephews have traveled approximately 15,000 miles to support me in person today. If you take nothing else away from my remarks, please think about those who advocate for your success in less visible ways and express your gratitude to them. Effective advocates present their case to the party who has authority to grant the relief sought. In lay terms, this means you should focus on persuading people who actually have the power to do what you ask. The Savior exemplifies this by being our advocate with the Father. The Savior's pleading on our behalf is directed toward the ultimate decision maker. In the book, Making Your Case by Antonin Scalia, a recently deceased justice on the United States Supreme Court, and Brian Garner, the authors observe, nothing is accomplished by trying to persuade someone who lacks the authority to do what you're asking, whether it's a hotel clerk with no discretion to adjust your bill, or a receptionist who cannot bind the company to the contract you propose. Persuasion directed to an inappropriate audience is ineffective. Too often, I see energy expended on actions that are at best preaching to the choir and at worst throwing gasoline on a fire. Facebook posts read by an audience with no more power than the writer does to affect change are not effective advocacy. While rallying others to your cause is sometimes an important part of advocacy, do not be distracted by thinking this is your end goal. Whether working to help an individual do something she could not do for herself, promoting a cause, or changing an existing policy, effective advocates direct their energies to those who have the authority to either finish the job or carry it to the next level. While a general reputation as trustworthy is valuable, to be an effective advocate, you must specifically earn the trust of those you are seeking to persuade. Trust must be earned, and it is not easily given. In too many cases, I see individuals spend their energy insulting and criticizing from afar those who disagree with them, rather than working to earn their trust. How can you do this? One way to earn the trust of those you are seeking to persuade is to get to know them. In a 2010 editorial in the New York Times, Senator Evan Bayh reflected on the changes that had occurred in Washington, D.C. since the time when his father served as a senator from Indiana. He recounted, "When I was a boy, members of Congress from both parties, along with their families, would routinely visit our home for dinner or the holidays. This type of social interaction hardly ever happens today, and we are the poorer for it. It is much harder to demonize someone when you know his family or have visited his home." Or, as the beloved but fictional attorney Atticus Finch put it, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Dialogue is enhanced and understanding is increased when underlying relationships are strengthened. Never forget, you are advocating for individual children of God. It is easy to become so caught up in the larger cause that we forget the individuals for whom we are advocating. Lanny Guinier is a well-known civil rights attorney who went on to become the first tenured professor at Harvard Law School who was a woman of color. In her memoirs, she observed with regret that as the civil rights movement unfolded, she and her fellow advocates became so caught up in developing legal doctrine and establishing legal precedent They distance themselves from the very people on whose behalf they brought the cases in the first place. Constant reminders are necessary to avoid this pitfall. Dallin Oaks has represented and led large institutions, and he keeps this picture, the forgotten man, in his office as a constant reminder of the importance of the individual. The fundamental reminder, of course, is the example of our Savior. His advocacy is provided on an individual basis. For example, the Savior tells the prophet Joseph and a small group of elders to lift up your hearts and be glad, for I am in your midst, and I am your advocate with the Father. He tells Oliver Cowdery, Peter Whitmer Jr., and Zebra Peterson that he is their advocate with the Father. He is not an advocate in some abstract theoretical sense, but on a very personal, individualized basis. God will also prepare you for what you should advocate. As Ava Weitzman recently pointed out in her devotional remarks, God knows you, and even though you may not yet know his plans, he knows the end from the beginning. He is preparing and qualifying you for the work he wants you to do. You may end up advocating on behalf of disabled children, or displaced families, or individuals whose civil rights have been violated, or elderly grandparents who need care. But when God sends a client your way, he will have provided you with the opportunity to prepare to advocate for what your client truly needs. And when we are unsure what to advocate for, we can again take instruction from the example of Jesus Christ. As our advocate, he pleads with the Father that we will be kept from evil, develop unity, and that we will know we are loved. We will never go wrong when we advocate for these results. God will guide us as we develop our advocacy skills, and he will provide us with opportunities to be advocates for his children. He will place some of us in situations to advocate to the highest legal authority in the land for changes that will benefit his children for generations. He will place others of us in situations where we can persuasively declare on behalf of one of our brothers or sisters, "To me, he doth not stink." And I can virtually guarantee he will enable each of us to advocate for one another within our families. Whatever specific realm we may be advocating in, if we promote unity and invite others to love one another, we can be sure we are advocating in a way that is pleasing to him.
This devotional address with Gayla Sorenson was given on August 8, 2017.